Hello and welcome to the Cowboy Chronicles, the Oklahoman's Oklahoma State football podcast. I am your host, Scott Wright, joined by Joe Mussatto. Today, been a disaster of a time here at the podcast, trying to get things. I'm 0 for 2 in recent weeks. My apologies to McLean Baxley of GoPokes.com and Marshall Scott of Pistols Firing for both joining me for what will now be referred to as the lost episodes of the Cowboy Chronicles.
Yeah, hopefully this one doesn't get lost. But I laughed when you said it's been a disaster because I thought you were just talking about the Oklahoma State football season.
Listen, it's not terribly different than what's been going on.
It got better.
It absolutely has, and we will talk about that in just a moment. You were in Provo with me. I wanted to because I've been trying so hard to get a podcast put out. I do owe a YouTube commenter a beer next time we're at Stone Cloud. 1776 WIJ was the last winner that we had on the picks contest. It's been so long I'm not even sure which game that was for, but here we are. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, jump in the comments. Give us a prediction for Oklahoma State at Baylor on Saturday, and you too can win a beer from Stone Cloud that we will drink for you. No beer here today. We're sitting in the office.
No, I've got coffee next to me. That's
energy drink for me.
That'll do.
Yeah, lots of caffeine going on here at the Oklahoman offices. So let's jump right in there, Joe. Like I said, you were in Provo. Let's start before we get to the game. How much fun was the whole atmosphere and everything about that night in Provo?
Well, we had a great time. Provo. It's an awesome place, awesome scenery. The setup for the game is really cool, and I had the privilege of going there last year when Oklahoma played out there, but that was a 10 a.m. local start, so everyone was just kind of getting out of bed and filing into the stadium. BYU wasn't that good. They ended up almost beating OU that day, so it turned into a good game, but this was totally different. I'm glad we got there early enough to where we could see the mountains in the backdrop, because by the time of kickoff, it was dark. Fans were rowdy, even though no adult beverages were involved in their rowdiness, and it was just a fantastic game. Probably the best atmosphere I've been to this season.
Yeah, no adult beverages, but they go hard on sugar.
Yeah, everyone's on a sugar high.
Exactly.
Including us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We split a cougar tail, which I think was the right decision.
Yep.
Had we both gone for one individually, I don't know that we would have made it through.
I don't know if we'd be here right now.
I really, no, we might not. I wanted to try the ice cream, but after partial piece of cougar tail, there was no chance that I was gonna get to the ice cream, unfortunately. So, but everything, they had the drone show a couple of different times. They had fire dancers, guys.
It was cool,
dancing with the twirling fire. A lot of stuff about that was just a fascinating atmosphere and a really fun thing. So that said, the game was actually also pretty good too.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma State comes up short in the end, and it's a weird dynamic with that game, because on the one hand you have a gut-wrenching loss to lose that way, and on the other hand you did a lot of things well that can benefit you going forward, and so it's kind of two ends of the spectrum a little bit in terms of what came out of that game, but overall more benefit than pain, would you say?
I think so. I mean, it's kind of tough because even in the tough loss, there was another tough loss with Garrett Rangel going down, and that was part of the excitement of the game, just the added dimension that Rangel gave the Cowboys offensively with the quarterback run game and getting hurt after that long run he busted. But then it was kind of the redemption story for Alan Bowman. Didn't start out great, but he leads the Cowboys on 8-minute and 22nd what would have been a game-winning drive.
Right.
So I think overall, I mean, the takeaways have to be positive, because in a season that, quite frankly, has been a huge disappointment, this was a Cowboys team that didn't lay over. I mean, they fought back. Mike Gundy seemed really happy with his team after the game. But they just got beat by a good BYU squad. I don't know if they're, top 10 in the nation good, but they've earned it to this point. But yeah, certainly not the disaster that we saw at Kansas State or home against West Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned the effort and kind of the attitude of this team. And as I talked to some fans, a lot of people compare this to the 2022 team, which, started out really good and then just collapsed mid-season. And obviously I know you were covering Thunder that year, so you weren't paying as close attention to college football as you are now. But the big difference between these two teams is the attitude. You had a lot of negative attitudes in the locker room that year, whereas this year you've got a lot of guys, whether it's that they're at the end of their career and they don't want to finish this way, or they're getting their first opportunities to be involved. Whatever it is, you've got positive attitudes. Even Alan Bowman through this whole thing has remained a positive influence on this team rather than being a divisive guy. All the things that a quarterback who gets benched could become in this situation. I think that's one of the most important things that gives this team a chance to pull through this and maybe go win enough games to get to a bowl. I don't know. I'm actually writing about that today.
Yeah.
It'll be in Thursday's paper, but it's not an easy task for this team to go win 3 more games against the schedule they've got left. But you at least don't feel like guys are giving up on this team at this point, and that's valuable.
Yeah, and you just never know when that's going to happen because the seasons can just fall off a cliff and guys aren't invested anymore. But I mean, talking to Ollie Gordon after the game, Brennan Presley, like I know it sounds like, oh, of course they're going to say that, but they talked a lot about like being a family and how close knit this team was. And this was a team that was awfully stable, especially by today's standards in the offseason with guys coming back, guys wanting to buy in, and it hasn't gone great. I'm sure that's been tough for everyone to deal with. But they still showed fight in that BYU game, and I'm interested to see kind of how you lay out the bowl path moving forward. But it's not an impossible task before them. I mean, there's a few winnable games in there. They might only be favored in 1 or 2. But if they played like they did Saturday at BYU, I mean, they can win a couple more games.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at this. This looked like it was going to be the really easy portion of the schedule, and it's definitely not as tough as what they came through early. But Baylor is coming off a game where they just scored 59 points, and anybody that can score 59 on a Big 12 team might be able to do that against OSU. Arizona State is 5-2. I never would have expected that. They haven't been as good on the road, which is important for OSU because they'll get them not only in Stillwater but on homecoming, which is always a big deal at OSU. So that's beneficial. Texas Tech is a hard team to figure out. That'll be in Stillwater as well. It'll be senior day for Alan Bowman, which is a fun little wrinkle to that game. You got TCU, another team that's kind of odd. I watched a lot of that game Friday night, or Saturday night. We had the Friday.
Yeah,
night.
I keep saying Saturday, but it was Friday.
Exactly. But so we had the Friday game, and then I watched TCU Utah on Saturday, which obviously was right there in Salt Lake. I wasn't at the game. I was in a hotel room. But they go and take care of Utah and score enough to win that game. Against a really good Utah defense. Utah obviously is fallen off the cliff a little bit offensively.
Yeah.
But so TCU, I think it's a tough game. It's not a place that OSU has played great recently, but it's still a winnable game, and that leaves Colorado, which I keep waiting for the explosion or the implosion, whichever it is. And it hasn't happened yet. So this team might be able to keep things together long enough for them to be really good at the end of the year. They legitimately could be playing for a spot in Arlington when OSU goes up there on Thanksgiving weekend.
They could. I think. I mean, it's hard to say Colorado's the biggest surprise in the Big 12 because the whole conference is surprising. Basically, just reverse the preseason standings, the preseason poll, and you'll get closer to the actual standings now than what that looks like. But yeah, Colorado, they look like a legit team. Their defense is playing better. I mean, they're explosive offensively, and that's probably the one left that is the toughest game, just being on the road at the end of the season for the Cowboys. But yeah, the other ones, I mean, BYU, Tech, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, or Baylor and Texas Tech, just because Texas Tech was undefeated in the Big 12, and then they get smoked. It's like, what's happening here? So
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre league in general. So looking specifically at this game, I was looking over some Baylor stats, and two things that bode well for the Cowboys. Baylor does not have a great rushing offense, and they've been in the bottom half of the league in rushing defense, and that's the two things that Oklahoma State needs to go in its favor: running the ball, stopping the run. I think that's the element of this game. And obviously, Oklahoma State's really only had one good rushing game. They've got to prove that they can do that consistently. But I think that's the one thing that really goes in Oklahoma State's favor if they can go out and run the ball the way they did at BYU.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, this was a very average to below average Baylor team. They're not going to just knock your socks off on either side of the ball, but certainly they're coming into the game with some momentum, just like the Cowboys are. So. Big game for both teams, especially when you look in relation to bowls and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's really weird to think about where these two teams are right now when after the 2021 Big 12 championship, that was the first season after OU and Texas had announced they were heading to the SEC, and we were all talking about, OSU and Baylor are going to be the kings of the Big 12 going forward.
Right. And now, I mean, Dave Aranda is squarely on the hot seat.
Yeah.
He's kind of coaching for his job down there. And you've got, OSU, which I looked it up yesterday, but the sixth longest active bowl streak in the country at 18 straight, I think. So, kind of a lot at play.
Yeah, it absolutely.
You got to find something to play for at this point.
Exactly, and Mike Gundy was asked about the bowl streak on Monday and talked a little bit about it and didn't really downplay it, but didn't directly address it either. Just talked about week to week, got to keep getting better, yada yada yada. But when you consider the number of starters that are in their final year of eligibility, basically almost the entire offensive line, some key defensive players, guys like that. Look at the turnover that they're going to have in the starting lineup next year. It gets a little bit cliche to talk about the extra 15 practices that you get with a bowl game, but it could be very valuable to a team that's going to face so much turnover, because you can really ramp up the practice reps you give to some of your younger guys and rotate them in, get them some game action that maybe guys that haven't played yet or haven't played much, and there could be some real value in that for a team like this that's about to face this kind of turnover.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point, and we do talk about it when it comes to those extra practices you get in bowl time. But not only the practices, but chance to play in the game. I mean, these kind of mid-tier to lower-tier bowl games aren't like just not everything is riding on them. Sometimes you use them to get some young guys some more opportunities, and we've already seen that a little bit with the Cowboys, with Rodney Fields getting in there at BYU playing well. I think we're going to start to see a little bit more of a youth movement. They were ready to go in that direction at quarterback. Obviously, Rangel got hurt, but you're using this second half of the season to not only try to keep playing hard for the guys that have been invested in the program for multiple years, but also knowing you're about to turn the page and you don't have as much to play for this year, and you're kind of looking toward next year.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, they're starting to do that a little bit. Fields was one of the brightest of the bright spots, I would say, to come out of the BYU game. Really impressed with the physicality for a guy that's not exactly huge.
Yeah, physical and looked fast, hit the hole hard. I mean, it was cool to see him get in there.
Yeah. With that, I think let's move on to the Stone Cloud six-pack that is not from Stone Cloud, but here we are. So Interesting week on the defensive side because you've had the last 2 weeks, you've had new starters lead the team in tackles with Jeff Robertson 2 games ago and Parker Robertson last week. Now, so that brings me to our first question in the Stone Cloud Six Pack. Who will lead OSU in tackles this week?
Oh man, can I just say Parker Robertson again?
You absolutely can. You absolutely
I
can.
kind of want to just because it was the Trey Rucker news kind of caught us by surprise a little bit, but Parker Robertson almost met his tackle total in that BYU game than he did in the previous 6 games or whatever
Right.
coming into it. I had fun watching him run around out there, got the interception, so I'm gonna stay with Parker Robertson.
Nothing wrong with that. I think you brought up the idea, and then I looked up the stats. But he surpassed his career best single game tackle total in the first quarter. I think his number was 4.
It was quick. Whoever you put in that spot, they're going to get a lot of tackles.
They seem
apparently.
to be making a lot of tackles. I'm going to go with somebody who hasn't had the kind of game the last couple of weeks that we were seeing earlier. I'm going to go with Kendall Daniels in this one for a big tackle game. I think he could be a guy that flips the switch and makes some plays this week. With the linebacker and safety groups being what they are in terms of injuries, it's really tough, and they could use a big game from Kendall Daniels, and I think he delivers this week. All right, number 2, true or false? Ollie Gordon reaches 100 yards rushing again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go true. I think Ollie's gonna surpass the 100-yard mark. You talked about Baylor's run defense, and I don't know what happened in the bye week, but it treated Ollie Gordon well. I know he's still a little banged up. He was wearing a boot after the game, so who knows kind of how he's feeling at this point in the year. But it was kind of vintage Ollie Gordon. We got a couple hurdles.
Right.
We saw him in the past game, so I expect a big game on the ground for Ollie Gordon.
Yeah, and we talked about this right after the 50-yard touchdown run in the first quarter. That one play was more yards than he had in 4 games this season.
Yeah.
So definitely looks to be, in a more similar form to last year than we've seen. All that said, I'm actually going to go false on this one.
Oh no!
I feel like Oklahoma State is going to have success running the ball, but I think they're going to try to limit Ollie's carries and try to make sure that you get him through the rest of the season. So I don't think he gets enough carries to get to the 100-yard mark, but I do think they'll have some success, whether it's Sesi Vailahi, Rodney Fields. Looks like maybe there's an injury situation going on with Trent Howland, so maybe he was on the trip and okay, but he only played 1 snap. And at one point, he was on the sideline, taking handoffs from Alan Bowman in a really weird situation that I've never really seen. It's not something you typically see on the sidelines during a game. So maybe an injury issue that he's dealing with, but if he can get healthy there, I think he can contribute as well. So I'm going false. No 100 yards for Ollie, but I think Oklahoma State has success running the ball. All right, number 3 in the Stone Cloud Six-Pack, true or false once again. Only one OSU player will take a snap Saturday.
False.
All right.
I'm going false.
I like it.
And I'm not even talking quarterbacks here. I think you're obviously going to have Alan Bowman, but I think we're going to see, maybe some Ollie Cat, maybe Brennan Presley direct snap,
Right.
something like that. So, I think they're going to mix things up a little bit. They talked about how much Rangel with the run game opened up the offense. I don't think they can go back to just doing what they were doing before.
Right.
They've got to find different ways to keep the defense off balance, and those are a couple of ways they might do that.
I am, number 1, agreeing with you. I think we'll see some sort of trickery. I'm not expecting Maya Luwaki-Smith to be in the game unless something crazy
Nice
happens.
job with the
I
pronunciation, by the way.
was listen, before we started recording, that was all I was doing was practicing his first name. But I think we'll see something happen in whether it's the Ollie Cat or Presley or something like that. Side question here, because at one point during the either third quarter, early fourth quarter of the BYU game, I said in the press box, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but they need to run Alan Bowman more. It's a really tricky situation to be in now because you do have a true freshman behind him who's been fourth string and scout team the vast majority of the season.
Right.
Hasn't had a ton of snaps. They're ramping that up here over the last few weeks to get him ready if they need to. But you got to protect Alan Bowman to a certain extent, but you got to run him because you see what that threat at least brings to this offense.
Yeah, the rumbling, stumbling Alan Bowman. I mean, it sounds funny, but it's like, what are they doing running him like that? I mean, like Garrett Rangel's not in there anymore, but it was effective. I mean, but on a designed run for Bowman, maybe he goes 6 yards on a play that Rangel could have gone 12, but it's still a positive play. But yeah, how they balance that will be really interesting because you obviously have nowhere to turn behind him except for the freshman. So notice I said freshman and not the full name. But yeah, I'm not sure how that's going to play out.
Yeah. So Bowman rushed 3 times for 19 yards last week. Went back through game logs of his entire career. Career high rushing total 21 yards. He almost got there.
Oh man!
And he deserved 1 more yard on that 1 third down run. I thought they gave him a bad spot that ended up leading to a 4th and short. That I thought he had gotten the first down there. So
yeah, I still don't. We still don't have a good answer for that. Mike Gundy said after the game that they looked at it.
He said that they told him that they had looked at it, though they never came out and
never said they were looking at it.
Yeah, so
I guess they look at everything.
Right, but yeah, just the ref getting it in his ear that they had looked at the spot, and did not.
Bowman got robbed.
He did. Should have had a 20-yard rushing game that will forever go down as a 19-yard rushing game. All right, with that we move to the back half of the Stone Cloud Six-Pack, which is of course the draft. A couple of weeks ago, when you joined me, we ended up drafting Halloween candy.
Yes.
I've been very fixated on Halloween this year. It's the first year. My son's 15. This is the first year he's not going trick or treating, so we're actually like decorating the house. And I've been way more invested. Usually it's just he picks a costume and I take him out and yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Now I'm way more invested in Halloween than I have been probably since I was a kid. It's been a lot of fun.
I think this is a trend. So
really?
I noticed this walking around my neighborhood. We'll walk our dog, and there seems to be more like big Halloween decorations now than I really ever remember.
Yes.
And I went in Home Depot the other day. They have a whole section of just these towering Halloween stuff, and I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
We went and bought some pumpkins the other day, so we're doing our part a little bit on that. But yeah. Halloween.
Exactly. So this week's draft, like I said, we drafted Halloween candy last time. This week, scary movie villains.
I hate scary movies.
Oh, really? Like don't watch them at all?
So you sent me the topic, and I was like, I can do this,
Okay.
but I'm gonna have some oddball answers because
That's fine.
I used to watch them a little bit, but now I'm just like, I don't enjoy being scared. I know it's Halloween. I know it makes me sound like a wimp, but I'm going to do this.
All right, good deal. For the record, my scary movie fandom stopped right around the time that like Saw and Ring and some of the other paranormal type stuff started to really become popular. There's nothing on my list that's going to be probably after 2000, honestly.
Okay.
I don't know. I have to look at the years, but probably nothing. Most of it's going to be stuff from my childhood and teenage years.
Okay.
So, but anyway, with that, the first pick is to you, Joe.
I don't think anyone's going to see this coming. I'm going with a throwback to a Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Ooh.
I'm going Misery. Have you ever seen Misery?
I have. Very nice.
That woman scared me so much. I don't know why my mom had me watch this movie when I was a child.
Oh, geez.
But she loves these, like, it's not like a pop out and scare you movie. It's more of like a psychological, like, thriller type thing.
Yes.
But Kathy Bates playing, I think her name is Annie Wilkes is the character, but
that's right.
James Caan's in the movie, and she's like this super fan, and it gets real weird and scary,
Yes.
and that woman scares me to this day. So she's my number one pick.
Completely understand that. No disagreement there. Oh man! All right, for my first pick, I am. I'm going to go with the one that was probably I found the most entertaining throughout my period of life when I did love scary movies. I'm going with Ghostface from the Scream movie series.
Classic.
I was a big fan of the Scream series for a lot of reasons, but I hear the new ones are pretty good. They kind of fell off there for a while, but they've made a comeback a little bit with Jenna Ortega here the last couple series.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the new ones, but that's like that face I feel like is a lasting Halloween costume choice.
Yeah.
You always see that mask.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, round 2 to you, Joe.
Round 2. I'm not even picking a scary movie because I don't really like scary movies, but I'm going with a villain,
All right.
a scary villain.
Uh-huh.
I'm going with the Joker, Heath
Oh.
Ledger's Joker in Dark Knight, which is one of my favorite movies.
That is fantastic.
And I know it's not a Halloween movie or scary movie, but that is a brilliant performance.
Yes.
And just a super scary guy.
Absolutely.
You're accepting my answer?
I completely
Okay.
accept your answer.
Okay, thanks.
And yeah, that's also, like you said, fantastic performance.
Yeah.
Easily, I think, the best Joker performance. I do like what Joaquin Phoenix has done. I loved the way that Jack Nicholson portrayed the Joker in the '89 movie. But Heath Ledger in that one was off the charts good. All right, I also partially accepted your answer because I'm not sure if my next choice would fully qualify. I'm going with the two little twin girls from The Shining.
Oh, God.
Not necessarily the villains, but they're super scary.
Yeah.
It's that part of the movie is more terrifying than anything else that happens in the whole movie. Obviously, Jack Torrance is the character's name. He's the real villain, or I guess the Shining. The supernatural power is the villain, but he becomes the villain. But those little girls scared me way more than anything else that happened in that movie.
Listen, I'm going to force you to accept this answer because it's my last one.
All right.
But I was going to say, not that, but I'm expanding the topic.
Okay.
Possessed, demented children standing in hallways by themselves, hearing stuff that other people don't hear. When kids are involved, it scares the bejesus out of me. I'm in a movie theater. I know a scary movie's gonna, there's gonna be a preview, and it just shows this kid that's just like looking into space or something. I'm like, no, we can't do this again. So I'm going with any possessed children as the villain of the scary movies.
I'll absolutely accept that. The little kid in Poltergeist, Exorcist. Yeah. So many to choose from. All very much acceptable.
Thank you.
No problems there. That leaves a lot on the table for me for my last pick, and I'm having a lot of trouble here as I look at my list. Some of the ones that I have that I'm not going to pick.
You can do honorable mentions, I guess.
Well, yeah. Freddy Krueger was the first one that I actually got to see the movie, and obviously terrifying, and so much about him. I was a big fan of Michael Myers as I got older.
Some classics, we had to mention them.
Exactly, Leatherface and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hannibal Lecter, I think, would qualify. It's not really a Halloween movie, but definitely a scary movie. Pennywise, the clown from the It movies, I find very terrifying. But that's a few honorable mentions.
I'm not big on clowns either.
No, same. But for my final pick, I'm going to go back to actually an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I'm going to go with Norman Bates of Psycho.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, the son in the hotel. And, became fascinated with that movie when I was my early years of college. I had taken a history of the horror film class because it was an intercession. You just watched the movie and then talked about it. That was the whole class for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's a good class.
It was great. But I became fascinated with that movie, and then the remake came out that Vince Vaughn was in, and they had that. So I became fascinated with Hitchcock in general. But
wow,
but
2 Hitchcock movies make the list.
Didn't see that coming. And honestly, if I had thought about it. The birds.
The birds are pretty scary.
The birds are really scary, so they would have had a chance to make the list too if I had thought about them. So, yeah, all right, good deal, fun list, good stuff. I appreciate you venturing into the realm of scary movies, even though you dislike them.
Hey,
so much.
sometimes you got to step out of your comfort zone.
Exactly, that's right. Good deal, Joe. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for watching, because hopefully you're getting to watch this, unlike the other ones that I've been. So, thanks everybody for checking us out here on the Cowboy Chronicles.